Hey guys, it's Tool Guy Y here, and today we are doing spark plug replacements on a 2015 Dodge Challenger V8. So these are the tools that you're going to need to have to complete this job. It is a good idea to have a basic socket set available just in case, some different size extensions, maybe a different couple ratchets like a flex head, and some wrenches as well. So we're going to start by taking off the engine cover. Just grab either side from front or back or left to right and pull up firmly. So we're going to be starting from the driver's side because the driver's side is a little harder than the passenger side. So if you can get the driver's side done easily, it leaves you an option to actually not have to watch the whole video, because in this video I will be also doing the passenger side as well. Next we're going to be taking off the air pipe that goes to the throttle body to the airbox. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our 8 mils and take off both hose clamps, one at the throttle body and one at the airbox. And after that, we're going to move on and take off the Maf sensor. The Maf sensor is located to the left side of the pipe, closest to the throttle body. To take that pipe off, pull it, give it a little tug, and there is a rubber grommet at the bottom that holds it in place. So once that's free, pull it up. So it's always a good habit to actually mark your coil packs to each corresponding cylinder. That way, you can always put your coil pack back where it goes when you're done. Also, if you're changing out spark plugs due to a misfire and you misdiagnose, it will be easier to recheck your work and figure out the misfire with the coil packs in the right place. This right here would be your cylinder identification. Next, we're going to take our trim panel tool or our screwdriver, and we're going to use that to take off the coil pack connector. Lift the red tab up and push down on the black tab while pulling up gently. Sometimes the connectors are a little hard to take off, so you can grab your screwdriver or your trim panel tool while pressing that black tab and pry up gently. If the red tab comes off, it's not a big deal. Most of the time the red tab slides back in, but if it doesn't go back in, don't worry, the connector will still connect. So once you learn how to take off the connector, work your way from the front to the back and just take your time. Towards the back there is a little less room, so just be careful. So once you have all the connectors off, you can start taking off the coil packs. Each coil pack has two 10mm bolts holding it in place. Just take your time, make sure you don't drop any bolts. Towards the firewall it does get a little tighter. This is why I recommended a 1/4" swivel, because you could tackle those bolts at a different angle. Once removed, pull coil packs out. Once those coil packs are removed, now is a good time to actually check your spark plugs for any oil. A lot of times the valve covers leak and the oil gets into the spark plug tubes, drowning the spark plugs, causing a misfire. If there is oil, I recommend changing your valve cover and cleaning out the spark plug tubes with brake clean and spraying out with air before you start pulling out your spark plugs. So we're going to be removing the spark plugs using our 5/8 spark plug socket. If you guys don't have one, I'll put a link in the description below so you guys can get one before starting your job. So when removing the spark plugs, I used a 5/8 spark plug socket with a 3/8" swivel and a 3" extension. At first I tried a 6" extension, but it got kind of hard because the ratchet itself was a little bigger. So it's up to you what you want to use. If you can't get a 3/8 swivel, you can still use a 6", but it will be a little harder. Also, if you're planning on using an electric ratchet or a gun, I do suggest breaking that spark plug free with a ratchet first. Once those spark plugs are out, grab 8 new spark plugs and drop those bad boys in. When installing the spark plugs, I recommend using a finger ratchet first and threading those spark plugs in by hand first. By doing this, you reduce the risk of cross-threading those spark plugs when installing. I highly recommend doing this if you plan on using an electric ratchet. Once all those spark plugs are threaded in by hand, I like to use my electric ratchet and I tighten it down to at least 1 chuggas. Not too tight, where it would strip it or over tighten it, and from there I use my ratchet and tighten it by hand. Still using the same setup as before with the swivel and the 3" extension, we're going to use our ratchet to tighten down the spark plugs. When tightening down, I like to tighten it until it bites, and then I go at least a 1/4 turn more. Notice how I choked up on the ratchet when tightening down the spark plugs. This transfers less torque and prevents over tightening. When all the spark plugs are tightened down, reinstall the coil packs. When reinstalling, make sure that the right coil pack goes to its corresponding cylinder. Secure all those coil packs using those 10mm bolts that you took off and put on the side. Finally, to finish off the driver's side, connect all 4 coil packs. When plugging in, make sure you hear a click ensuring that the connector is fully connected, and make sure that red tab is fully locked. For the passenger side, it will be sped up. All you have to do is do the same thing as you did on the driver's side. Start by removing the connectors for the coil packs. Once again, we will be removing the two 10mm bolts holding down the coil packs. The oil dipstick may get in the way when pulling out the first coil pack, so remove the oil dipstick and put it to the side. Once the coil packs are out, start removing the spark plugs. Start by removing front and work your way to the back. Once you have all the spark plugs out, grab the last 8 spark plugs and drop those suckers in. Yet again, we will be tightening down the new spark plugs by hand first to prevent cross-threading. When the new spark plugs are hand threaded in a couple turns, you can start tightening them down. If you're using an electric ratchet, don't tighten it down all the way to prevent over-tightening and over-torquing. Tighten it down loosely and finish off by hand with a manual ratchet. Once all the spark plugs are in, add the coil packs, add the 10mm bolts, tighten them all down, and make sure you connect all your connectors correctly. It's always a good idea to double check your work, make sure the connectors are all connected and your coil packs are securely fastened. Reinstall the air tube back from the air box to the throttle body. If you have a hard time putting the tube on the air box, use some brake clean to lube it up, tighten down the clamps, and re-plug in the Maf. Lastly, install the engine cover. Congratulations guys, you now know how to do spark plugs on a 2015 Dodge Challenger. If you haven't already, smash that like button and subscribe for more how-to videos. Thanks for watching.